Hello class! Welcome to today's lesson. In this lesson, we'll learn about figures of speech, focusing on similes and metaphors. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to 1. Identify different figures of speech in sentences. Identify similes and metaphors in sentences. Also, use similes and metaphors in different sentences and use similes and turn them into metaphors and vice versa. So kids, are you ready for today's lesson? Great! Now let's begin. Have you ever wanted to express your feelings of happiness, anger, or even surprise, and you lack the right words to use? Now, if you've ever experienced that, then you need a figure of speech in such a situation. A figure of speech is a word or phrase that is used to express vivid imaginary and convey non-literal meanings. Therefore, we can say figures of speech explain phenomena in a relatable way. There are several types of figures of speech, of which similes and metaphors are the most popular because they allow us to make comparison, connections, and description beyond literal meanings. Come on, let's dig into how they work, explain how to tell them apart, and get ourselves a treasure trove of examples. Let's start with a simile. A simile is a figure of speech in which two things are indirectly compared based on common similarities. This is typically done using the words like or as. The most basic form is saying that X is like Y. For example, you can say, "My father's temper is like a thunderstorm." You can also form similes using the word as, like saying, "My father's temper is as furious as a thunderstorm." Now this simile simply means my father's temper can be as serious as a thunderstorm. Similes are generally used to make descriptions more vivid. A statement like "the stars twinkled" doesn't spark the imagination or give a clear picture like using a simile to say "the stars twinkled like diamonds." Similes allow descriptions to be more concrete or better engage our sense of imagination to make the descriptions stand out more. But the use of like or as clearly indicates that a comparison is being made. Other examples of statements that use similes include, "My friend is as slow as a snail." "The teacher roared like a lion at the misbehaving classroom." "My friend can jump like a gazelle." "The student was as busy as a bee." Bzzz. "The students were as good as gold." Now that we understand a simile, let us look at what a metaphor is. Metaphors are figures of speech that directly compare two things that seem like they are not alike but share a relatable similarity. For example, Aya's stomach was a roaring lion. Now you know her stomach isn't actually a roaring lion. But just as the lion roars, the stomach can also make a growling sound that sort of sounds like a lion's roar. Hence the comparison. So when you say Aya's stomach was a roaring lion, you can picture just how loudly her stomach growled and how hungry Aya must have been. Also, don't you think it's way more interesting than saying her stomach growled? Now let's look at some examples. My best friend is an angel. Angels are good, right? So this means I compared my best friend to an angel because my friend is a good person. The sun was a furnace. Now furnaces are hot, right? So this means I compared the sun to a furnace because the sun is hot. Her eyes were twinkling stars. Now twinkling stars are shiny, right? So this means I compared her eyes to a twinkling star because her eyes are shiny. The lion's teeth were daggers. Now daggers are sharp, right? So this means I compared the lion's teeth to dagger because they were sharp. Also, my phone is an artifact. Artifacts are old objects, right? So this means I compared my phone to an artifact because it is old. Now, doesn't it sound way more cooler to use similes and metaphors to describe things? I bet you can think of something to compare someone or something around you too. But remember, for that comparison and figure of speech to be accurate, what you are comparing needs to share things in common. Another important skill to learn is to know how to change similes to metaphors and vice versa. This simile, Aya is as busy as a bee, can be changed into a metaphor that says Aya is a bee. Similarly, this metaphor, her eyes were twinkling stars, can be changed into a simile that says her eyes are like twinkling stars. Now, let me tell you the secret of doing this. Just remember that metaphors make a direct comparison and similes make an indirect comparison using the words like and as. So, if you want to change a simile to a metaphor, you simply remove the as or like in the simile sentence, and if you want to change a metaphor to a simile, you simply add as or like to the metaphor sentence. Easy, right? Now this brings us to the end of our lesson today. We have learned what similes and metaphors are, examples of both, how to use them, and how to switch between them. See you in the next lesson.